Hello and welcome to our Breximas special and our final webinar of 2020. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We will try and keep this as brief as possible and hopefully to around 15 minutes. So today we're going to be talking about the deal that occurred on the 24th of December. If you would like to catch up on any of our previous webinars, please visit our website, martynfiddler.aero. There's lots of information there on the various import routes and other procedures that you could use. And we will be touching upon various of those today, but really we're going to be focusing on what the trade deal meant and what it means for business aviation. As always, we will be focusing on VAT, customs and imports, so we won't be talking about cabotage issues or flying rights. Now, my experts today are Mark Byrne and Adrian Jones, and before we turn to them, I wanted to put things in a little bit of context. So what we're going to be focusing on is the trade agreement. So way back when the UK invoked Article 50 to leave the EU, they had a couple of years in which they were supposed to negotiate a trade agreement. And then when the transition period started, it was meant to be focused on really getting to the detail of that agreement and hammering out any inconsistencies or issues that require clarity. Unfortunately, as we all know, that didn't happen. And as I said, on the 24th of December, with just 4 working days to go until the end of the transition period, we got a 1,245-page agreement that we've been trying to get through before now. So turning to Mark to start with, can you give us a broad summary of what the trade agreement actually says?
Okay, Heather, it says a lot about a lot of things. As far as aviation is concerned, there is a chapter on aviation. It's very much focused on commercial aviation and specifically airlines and their operations. As far as we can determine from the 1,245 pages, there is no mention at all, unfortunately, about business aviation specifically. There are various chapters that deal with taxation issues. And I suppose really at the heart of it is that on the 1st of January, there will be now 2 customs territories where previously there was just 1. So there'll be the UK as a completely separate customs territory to the EU. And therefore, for the first time in sort of 40 odd years, we will have 2 completely different systems within which we have to operate.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And with respect to the agreement, can this be changed? Can it be renegotiated? Is there any movement in this?
So the agreement is designed to be dynamic in the sense that it can evolve over a period of time. And it specifically envisages this. So, for example, we know that, for example, in the field of financial services, there will be a supplementary agreement which will be concluded during the early part of 2021. But there is also something called the Partnership Council, which is a completely new body on which representatives of the UK government and the EU Commission will sit to discuss ongoing business with respect to the trade between the 2 trading blocs. And it is therefore envisaged that stuff will change over time and that these decisions over any kind of changes can be taken at this Partnership Council. There is also provision for substantial reviews of what's taken place every 5 years. So yes, very much, everything can change going forward. Obviously at this stage, we have no idea what and when and how.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So Adrian, we know that there's a lot in there about commercial aviation. Are you able to give us a summary of any specific parts of the agreement that relates to business aviation?
Yes, and in short, there are no specific parts of the agreement that relate to business aviation. As Mark said, it focuses very much on commercial and from the point of view of airlines. So what we can see from the agreement is that if you are an air operator and you are operating in the main on international routes and you have an aircraft which is being supplied for charter, for reward to the public, then that aircraft will be free from restrictions, and you are able to import that aircraft into the UK and into the EU without further taxes to be paid. So for an AOC charter aircraft, where reimportation is needed, there will be no further taxes to pay, no customs duty and no VAT. Now, as far as we're concerned, that is as we would have hoped, as we would have expected, indeed, because there are no customs duties applicable to aircraft anyway, where they're on a civilian register. And VAT for charter aircraft is zero rated. So therefore, there are no taxes. And the agreement, I think, does very well in confirming something that we would have anticipated, hoped for, expected in any event for AOC aircraft. Outside of AOC aircraft, where you have aircraft used for business purposes, either within a corporate setting or for a serial entrepreneur, then those aircraft are simply not catered for, not mentioned. The withdrawal agreements from the EU saw to it, if you like, that those aircraft would be destined to lose their customs status in one or other of the customs territories. And this trade agreement hasn't done anything to restore that status. So I think, as we would expect for AOC aircraft, the need to re-import, yes, no further taxes, as we would understand. For other business aircraft, we're very much back to what we were saying in our previous webinars, that a re-importation solution is required.
Okay, so there's some points that we know and there's some points that we need clarity on. So are there any opportunities that you see that are coming out of this trade deal?
I think opportunities thin on the ground, if you like. There's no additional help for business aviation, particularly from this agreement. It does make mention of temporary admission. That will continue as, if you like, the temporary admission rules that we understand for the EU will also apply now to the UK, but as a separate customs territory. So those rules on day one next year don't change. Inward processing relief, there is mention of that. Inward processing is available for aircraft coming in for repairs, for maintenance into the UK, as you might expect. There's also mention of, I suppose, other customs statuses and agreements. So it's very much as you would expect. I think the one point that we have seen and mentioned in previous webinars is that the UK not being in the EU now means that if any sales of aircraft need to take place outside of EU VAT territory, aircraft don't now have to travel to the Channel Islands. They can actually travel to the UK and close in the UK outside of EU VAT territory. What about UK VAT? I hear some people say. Well, UK VAT can be catered for by the use of customs warehouses and the system of customs warehousing that we have in the UK, which allows aircraft to enter without any customs formalities, without import VAT. And then within the customs warehouse, the aircraft transaction can complete without VAT. So the UK now becomes, if you like, a very good place for the closings to take place.
I've got two questions really remaining. One has come from the audience, and I think it's quite important. But before I get to that, one of the questions that we've had a lot since doing this webinar series is, where should my aircraft be on the 31st? So on the basis that the 31st is tomorrow, Adrian, do do we scare the audience and say, oh my gosh, your aircraft needs to be in X, or does it matter?
I think the short answer is it doesn't matter. The UK position has been confirmed by HMRC, and we're very grateful for the work that the BBGA has done in discussing these points with HMRC. But the UK position has been confirmed that any aircraft that were previously imported into the UK can return to the UK without further tax consequences using return goods relief. Now, that is something that we would have hoped for, we would have expected, and we're very pleased to have clarity on that point from HMRC. They seem to be taking a very positive position there. And the same can be said about aircraft imported into the EU. Their rules haven't changed, and return goods relief simply continues to apply in the EU as we might expect. So any aircraft that are located outside of their home base, if you like, outside of where they have been imported, can then return to those territories without further taxes applying. So aircraft don't need to be in the UK tomorrow in order to have continued UK status. The same for the EU. If you are located in, if you like, the wrong territory, so you have an import status in the UK and you're located in the EU, in theory, you can continue in the EU without further consequences until you next depart, because you will be, if you like, in transit. And under the transitional provisions, you can continue to be in transit. The rules are meant for goods, but they should equally apply to aircraft. I think a note of caution there would be, okay, you can be in transit for a while, but probably don't push the boundaries there. If you don't have an import status, say, in the UK, and you clearly should, then being in transit might work for a while, but I think the practicalities on the ground are that customs officers might not think too technically about that point and question it after a while.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the question that we've had from the audience, if you don't mind. It's one that we've actually had several times before, so I think it's relevant to bring it up now with a couple of moments that we've got left. So the question is, what about privately owned aircraft that were previously imported into the EU via the UK? Will these now need to be re-imported into the EU for free circulation? Adrian or Mark, whichever you would prefer to answer that.
Well, my answer would be yes. If you have an aircraft that has been imported into the UK and all its documents, all its fiscal background, if you like, is in the UK, then to take that aircraft into Europe, you would either qualify under temporary admission if you met the tests for temporary admission, or if you don't, then a re-import into Europe would be required, yes.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Now, I'm going to draw this to a close because I know you are all very busy, and in fact, my father has decided to ring me exactly the same time. So, Mark, do you have any final comments that you would like to make?
Well, yes, basically, if anybody's got any questions, we are here for you. Just send us an email and we will do our very best to answer your questions. And if necessary, work needs to be done, then we can look after that for you too.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Adrian, and thank you to everybody in our audience. We will make a summary of this webinar available as soon as possible, and a recording will also be made available on our website as soon as we're back in the office. Please do email us if you have any questions. We will try our best to get back to you as soon as possible. And otherwise, have a fantastic new year. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.